I'm a big man.
You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
I don't know how we afforded Rod Serling on that intro, man, but whoever did that imitation of Rod Serling should be getting residuals on that every time it plays. What's up, folks? Mark Pellegrino here. I am the host of the Capitalist Corner and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Mr. Michael Liebowitz, who is having a tough day with technology today. It's like that. You're like that. Speaking of Rod Serling, it's like that Twilight Zone where the guy, all the technology rebels around him and he can't, it ends up, I don't remember what it ends up doing, but it's bad. So Michael also, in addition to being technologically inept, is helming the Rational Alternative, which is our channel here, of which Capitalist Corner is the flagship show. So Michael, why don't you tell us what's going on, because you know everything.
We got an interview out right now on the Michael Liebowitz show with the economist Robert Mulligan. We're discussing economics and its relationship to the liberty movement. So that's great. Later on today, I'm doing an interview with Jim Valiant and Sheldon Richman that I'll be releasing Wednesday. That's great. Saturdays, we got the science stuff that we do with Megan Ribbons on the Rational Alternative Weekend. Sunday, members only stuff. And of course, we have this here. And as Mark said, so Diana bought me a webcam for my birthday because from what I understand with the webcam, I can zoom in and just have the background like Mark does there with the green screen. So I decided I was going to hook this thing up, and I quickly found out that I don't have enough, I guess they're called portals on the computer. And then I saw this little button type thing, and I said, oh, well, this is plugged in. Maybe it's just a space saver. So I detached that and plugged in the camera, and that worked. And all of a sudden, my mouse wasn't working because it turns out that the thing I unplugged actually belongs to the mouse. So then Subby tells me, yeah, but you can use the thing on your computer. I can never figure that out on how to move this stupid little arrow. But anyways, I figured out what I need to do. I have to go buy this hub. It's like a splitter type thing that you plug in, and then I can connect all the various things that I want. And in addition, Mark made me watch this movie called Marty Supreme.
First of all, I never make you do anything.
What do you mean?
Voluntarily watched Marty Supreme. Based on my recommendation, I'm sure.
It's true. You told me this, the car ends up chasing the dude at the end of that episode. What episode?
Oh, that's it. The Twilight Zone episode that I was just talking about, dude. Get it together.
Okay. I thought she was just coming in with something.
Thank you very much for reminding me of how that episode ended. That was a spoiler. The great thing about being older, Michael, is that you can see an episode multiple times, and each time it's as if you're seeing it for the first time because you forget.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm not going to watch again is Marty Supreme.
I knew you were going to go there, dude. I knew you were going to go there.
Well, no, you recommended this movie like it was the second coming of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I never, ever said that. I never even implied it.
You said you got to watch this movie, Marty Supreme.
Why? What specifically did I say about it that was good?
You weren't going to give me a spoiler. You just said I needed to watch it. So let me give you a quick comparison here.
Comparison to
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, come on. There is no comparison.
No, but there is a comparison. There's a contrast, rather. I'm not talking about.
Yes, there is a contrast. There is a contrast.
I'm not talking about that. Quality of acting, cinematography, none of that stuff. I'm talking about the moral landscape. Okay?
A very different moral landscape, my friend.
Yes. So when you watch Lord of the Rings, there's good, there's evil. There's people with rock solid integrity. There's people who aren't. And by the way, you were absolutely right about Sam. I take Sam over Frodo every day of the week, twice.
I told you.
Every time.
Is this a little bit of sugar before the medicine goes down?
It's like Mary Poppins. Yes, another good movie. So with Sam, this guy, he sticks to it the whole time. Loyal, honest, integrity, gonna do what's right,
Absolutely.
no matter what. Right?
Absolutely.
With Frodo, and I get he's under the influence of the ring and he's injured and all that, but he believes the little maggot creature Smeagol over his friend Sam.
Because he's under the sway of the ring. He's under the sway of the ring.
So what? I don't care. He still banishes his friend. He banishes his friend. And at the end, at the moment of truth, he decides to keep the ring. He doesn't throw the ring in the lava. The only reason it ends up in the lava is because Smeagol attacks him. And Smeagol takes the ring and ends up in the lava. So I'm going to go with Sam. But the point of the matter is...
I told you from the beginning.
It's clear... You did. It's clear good versus evil. So now let's go to Marty Supreme. Okay.
I know what you're going to say already.
What I'm going to say is I'm going to tell you first what I like about the character and what I think you probably liked about the character.
And you're probably going to nail it. Go ahead.
Yes.
And I probably dislike the very same things that you dislike.
One, he is extremely confident in his own ability, and it's confidence based on experience. It's accurate. His belief in himself is based on facts, and it's unwavering. He knows how good he is at ping pong.
Right. And he's got a vision. He's got a vision. He's got a goal that he is dedicated to. Now, whether or not he pursues that right and or along the right path is another thing. But go ahead.
Jim, I don't know what the book says, but in the movie, they said that Frodo could do it. So I don't know. Maybe in the book, it's something different, but I'm going by the movie. And in the movie, that's what occurred. Frodo, the woman told Frodo he's the only one that can do it. Okay. Marty Supreme had a vision and purpose, and he was not going to let anything stand in his way. And I can admire that. That was good. He wasn't going to quit until he accomplished his purpose. Here's where the problem comes in. He's a complete maggot.
Yes. Yes.
He's a total scumbag. And
Yes.
so he's willing to violate rights, lie, steal. The complete separation from virtue and value in the movie, and that ruined the whole.
That's true. And that
interesting movie, fun to watch. Don't get me wrong.
And Timothy Chalamet is amazing. He is a fantastic actor. There's no question about it.
He is.
Look, the subject matter is an extremely flawed hero. I agree with
but not
you.
a hero. No, not a hero.
No, heroic in the sense he has heroic qualities, but he's not a hero. But do you think that there was redemption in the end? Okay, because he's a maggot. He has no sense of loyalty.
What do we know?
He'll backstab anybody to get what he wants. He'll even shame himself to get what he wants. So he has no integrity, that's for sure. But
Nothing.
at the end, when she gives birth to the baby, when he sees that kid, it's like an epiphany for him. And you get the sense that that his life has changed from that moment on. And that's possible, Michael. God knows you did it. You changed completely.
Right.
It wasn't an
hold on.
epiphany moment.
There's no sign that the only change is that he now accepts the baby that is his. That's the change.
I think it's more than that.
But there's really nothing to go on. And you don't just wipe out all that scumbaggery. First of all, okay, they're going to arrest him for the robbery that he commits. First thing, right? Then there's the explosion at the gas station that he gets away with. Then the girl runs the guy down at the house. Then they go back with.
It was a bad guy, right? I forget.
At the house,
one of the gangsters. It was one
but
of
then
the
they go back, and all these people wind up dead. And then, so he's wanted definitely for robbery, definitely for fleeing arrest. Two things off the bat. Plus, he whacks that dude in the head with whatever he hit him with when he thought he abused the girl. He'd be wanted for that. Then he'd be wanted for that fire at the gas station. Then all the deaths that occur at that house. And he just shows up at the hospital.
The people who die at the house are bad people.
The law doesn't give a damn about that.
They're
what do you
bad
think? You're going to get
people.
arrested? There's 4 people dead, and you're going to say,
criminals.
well, they're not
it's
good
going
people.
under the radar, Michael, because they're bad guys.
Hell no. And he was a bad guy. He already robbed his uncle. There's no way. And to say, well, because he looked soft when he's looking at the baby, that's somehow his redemption.
He had a real epiphany. It was beautiful.
Well, you don't know. Listen, epiphany means nothing. I want to see actions. It wasn't there. The morality of that movie was awful. Jim Valiant wants to discuss Lord of the Rings. I guess Jim is going to defend not Harry Potter,
Frodo.
Frodo. There's, in my view, he just doesn't compare to Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
That's it.
remember, James, I don't remember the books so much because I read them so long ago, but in the movies, of course, Frodo can't, he doesn't get there without Sam. I mean, without Sam, it does not happen because
No
Sam is the
way.
guy that carries him literally on his shoulders when the kid can't move anymore. I love Sam. Sam is awesome.
Sam was awesome. And there was no indication in the movie that you're robbed of free will and it's impossible to destroy the ring. Not that I remember. In any three of those movies, was there any indication of that?
You've started a real conversation here in the convos and the comments because Akira Felix has now sent James Valiant a Lord of the Rings meme. If Akira, if you can post that in the comments here, that would be great. Is that possible?
You can't post memes, no, in the comments. No, Mark.
What kind of loser comment section is this?
I think he might have just sent it to me.
So Michael, this is, I think you bring up a great case because I had all the same issues that you had with Marty Supreme. The reason I told you to watch it is because as an objectivist, I have to make certain concessions to the problematic way in which filmmakers oftentimes do not express the values that I hold, and they also they like complex characters. In fact, Michael, they like characters now that are distasteful and ugly from the outset. Now, there's a guy named Blake Schneider who wrote a book on screenwriting. He's a terrible screenwriter himself, but he became more famous through the screenwriting book called Save the Cat. And the idea is that you get the main character to do something noble in the first 10 pages or so of the script, and you're automatically on their side. Well, now scriptwriters are actually conscientiously going against that and trying to get you to like, characters that are not good. And Marty is not good. He has none of the virtues that you and I will hold as virtues.
But he's not even a good anti-hero. He's not even a good anti-hero.
I agree with you but the anti-hero doesn't believe in heroic qualities and then rises to the occasion at the end. So he ends up tapping these qualities within himself that he didn't understand that he had. And Marty Supreme certainly isn't that way. Limited government, Republican afterward. Yes. Yeah, I know.
Do you see the bottom? But if we use the government for good,
then
good one, Akira.
Very good, Akira. Perfect. Very perfect. So, Michael, we can discuss film all day. I love that. It's one of my favorite things to do. I think you have to take films nowadays, and enjoy certain values within it, right? It's shot well. The acting is superb. Timothy Chalamet is great. Unfortunately, it's like, what it reminds me of, Michael? A lot of films today. Martin Scorsese is one of the greatest American directors of all time. But he reminds me of he's like a Michelangelo with respect to cinema, but he populates the screen with garbage. You know what I mean? His characters are just awful. Almost all the way through. He rarely makes film about genuinely heroic people. And that's unfortunate, but you can still like Marty Scorsese films because he knows what he's doing and he gets the best out of his actors. Okay. So Michael, are we going to talk here about the pause for Iran? That's the first
I just
thing
want to tell you. So according to J.R.R. Tolkien, at the cracks of doom, at that point, then resistance became physically and mentally impossible for any mortal being, leading Frodo to claim the ring. So at that point, he did. But it says here, Frodo Baggins did not completely lose his agency, but his capacity to choose was systematically eroded by the One Ring. His journey demonstrates a profound psychological and spiritual strain rather than total control erasure.
Akira Felix says, right, I think Tarantino makes better characters. I sort of agree with you. He also writes really fun dialogue, and that makes the characters sort of endearing and interesting too.
Okay.
Even if they're sleazy. Yeah.
So yes, there is another pause in the war
with
Iran. Yes.
That's weird.
Pause. And it's peculiar. Yeah, it's peculiar. Now, the stories are that it's because there's depleted weapon systems to defend our troops overseas. We're running out of things. I was thinking this morning, Mark, maybe I've been kind of wrong about something, because I've always assumed that The United States could win this if they had the will. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to doubt that. And what I mean by doubt it, I don't mean total will. If you had the will to do whatever it takes, I think that America could win it. But by a simple bombing campaign, it seems, I mean, Iran is not going to quit from this. They're just not. I mean, that's out the window, right? They're not. They don't care about these bombings that are taking place. And if we're going to run out of weapons where we can't defend ourselves in the Pacific, for instance, or we can't defend our troops that are in the Middle East, it seems to me that we have a serious problem. And that maybe we just aren't capable without going to extremes that virtually nobody in the country is going to allow. We just can't win.
Thank you, Nicole, for the $3 super sticker. Yeah, I forgot to mention, thank you for super stickers and super chats. Please be generous with them. Michael loves it, and he's having a bad day, so you might want to just toss a few out here for him to make him smile just like that.
I don't want pity super chats and super stickers. We
It's
want
all right,
super
Michael.
chats and
It's
super
all right.
stickers based on quality, not because
You've had pity dates
spilled
before,
over.
right? And it didn't bother you then. I'm kidding. So
Did
Michael,
they put out? That's the question. If they put
Right?
out, I wouldn't have. I would have been okay with it as a teenager. The pity would have been fine.
I'm going to push back a little bit here, Michael, because I think the Trump administration is trying to loosen up supply chains with respect to our military ordnance. There's a definite bottleneck. There's a choke point because a couple of cartels have this stuff in the bag, and they're trying to loosen that stuff up so that they can produce this ordnance much faster. But I also think that what we have not done yet is make the regime care, because we're attacking military ordnance, and we could do that all day, all night for probably a decade or so before the regime starts to feel the pinch of that. But what they will feel the pinch of immediately is taking out power grids and dual use bridges, preventing them from actually making the drones and the missiles that they're firing at us from the Straits of Hormuz. That's going to make them extremely uncomfortable. We haven't done that yet. And I'm sort of astounded that we haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure why the president is restraining himself with respect to that. Certainly it's against quote unquote international law, but the Iranians have already violated that, if that's somehow matters.
That doesn't really, well, the problem is you, again, and I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of the whole international law thing. But you cannot, on one hand, run around criticizing people for not following international law, as our government does, and then say, well, we're not going to be subject to international law because it's stupid.
Yeah. And the latter is correct. It is stupid. There's no enforcement mechanism. We're not a signatory to most of this shit, and we shouldn't be beholden. Pity chat. Look at that. I love that. Thank you, Greg. You made him smile. See, it doesn't matter. It's a pity chat, but it still made you smile.
So, what the hell was I going to say?
But Michael, Ukraine is even now going after the supply chains of Iran. They're attacking stuff in the Caspian Sea, which is one of the supply chain sections for Russia supplying Iran with munitions.
The question I have, Mark, and this is what I said, I'm not sure that we can win outside of really, really going to extremes, is I don't know how capable we are of doing the things that you're talking about without really depleting our resources and not having the Iranians give up. I'm not sure. I'm not giving an affirmative case. I'm just telling you, based on what I've been reading, I'm not certain of this.
I think the capacity for the regime to make their people go through suffering is fairly huge. I mean, there's a huge capacity there, but we haven't made them suffer the way they should. See, Michael, look at, they're coming through a super sticker.
No,
for
but this is what we call in prison hustling backwards. Right. Diana, don't give me your money because your money is my money anyway. So I appreciate.
Thank you for the super sticker. You made him smile. We know it's a pity super sticker, and that's what matters to me, Michael. Is just knowing every one of these super chats and super stickers is a pity super chat and super sticker.
Nice.
Again, I think if we took out dual use targets, they would suffer in a way that would make the regime stand up and take notice. Apparently, 301% inflation isn't, and the blockade isn't enough suffering for them. But if their power goes out and they can't make these munitions anymore because they have no power grid, or their oil facilities are completely taken out, then they really are in trouble. And of course we can strangle them. It may take a while for them to die, but they will die. It's just it'll take a while.
All right. Well, again, now we have this pause, and there's reports that Trump has been throwing tantrums, or threw a tantrum the other day. He's really pissed off that this thing didn't go how he thought it was going to go, or whatever. I don't know. Look, it was dumb from the start. It's dumb now, and it's not going to get better. I don't care how many people come out and say, oh, whatever, it's going to be forced on him. He's got to do it. He simply doesn't have what it takes. The gas prices start to go up. The munitions go down. The support goes down. That's it. He's
then there's
not
another
that
ceasefire.
guy.
There's another ceasefire and another cycle of fruitless negotiations that are just basically wasting time for Iran to gather its resources again and do what it's been doing the entire time. They game this system to the max. They always have. There's nothing new here. And Michael, the main thing that surprises me is how gullible Americans are, that they actually accede to these pauses, as if something new is going to be produced from them. They're not. And their major diplomats are making that very clear. They're not shifting their position as a result of this. They're staying exactly where they are. They're the only principled people in the room. Their principles just suck. Do we think the war could be another 20-year forever war? Yeah, Kira, if you don't have a goal and you don't have the desire to defeat the enemy, which in this case means regime change, I've been saying it for a while now, there's really no other way to win the war than to acquire regime change. Then yeah, it'll go on forever in a it could go on forever in tit for tat fashion. And this is, Michael, this is the result of the ethics, the ethics of just war. I think, that tries to parse out civilians and military targets. And the good thing is it's attempting to limit civilian casualties. The bad thing is oftentimes military and civilian stuff is so embedded with each other that a lot of the most important components of the military apparatus are dual use, and you really have no choice but to put the people in a humanitarian crisis if you want to win the war. And we haven't had the desire to win a war since World War II.
Well, okay. But I actually wanted to talk about that for a second now that you mentioned it, because it just really occurred to me. Okay, what happened in World War II? What was going on in World War II?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, Nazi Germany was working to take over Europe and negotiating with the Soviet Union to parcel up part of Eastern and Central Europe. And Japan was looking to make moves in China and Malaysia. They were both seeking to increase their hegemony in those spheres of influence.
And Japan
by war.
And Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
They bombed Pearl Harbor. Yes, they did.
And these folks were serious military threats that actually could have achieved their goal. Like there was a good chance.
That I don't think, but I think in hindsight, everybody recognizes that they really weren't as powerful as.
No. What I'm saying is, if you're there at that time, and you're looking at, and I'm talking about before Russia and before Hitler double crosses Stalin, before that, it looks like there's a very real case that they're going to win this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I want you to compare that to some of the wars we've been in since. Korea was no threat to us. Korea was not going to take over the world. They weren't going to take over us. There was going to be the spread of communism. Yes, I get that, which is, of course, a bad thing. But they were no real threat to the United States. Then we went to Vietnam. Same thing.
But who was the threat to the United States that entered that war? China.
Well, China entered. Didn't China enter because we entered?
They entered because we actually pushed back against North Korea and pushed them over the demilitarized zone, and so then they entered after I think Truman put the Seventh Fleet in the Straits of Taiwan to prevent Chiang Kai-shek from crossing over and to defeat Mao. It was because of our blunders.
Right. So, but my major point is we weren't in a situation where somebody was attacking us or somebody was going to take over large portions of the world. Then in Vietnam, similar situation. We want to stop the spread of communism. Fast forward a little bit. You go to the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein didn't attack us. I'm talking about the first one. He didn't attack us. There was no real risk to us. Now, after 9/11, I think there was the will to win a war.
Sort of.
I think they went about it all the wrong way. You know, they started off with the messaging, the winning the hearts and minds, and all that bullshit.
Which we tried in the 60s with the Vietnamese people, and it didn't work.
Right. But at the beginning, I think there was. Now, if you flash forward, after 20 years of that, a complete debacle in Iraq, and now we're like, oh, well, let's go to war with Iran, another country that's never managed to hit mainland United States. It has attacked our soldiers overseas. It has hit assets overseas. Granted all, but it's no threat. I'm going to say, and this is, I think, going to be my hardest statement on this yet. I see no evidence anywhere from anybody that Iran is actually a threat to the mainland United States. None. So when you're asking American citizens, most of, I don't know about most, but a lot of whom weren't even alive when the hostages were taken in 79. Right.
Well, Michael, I think to say they didn't ask the American citizens, I think that's part of the problem.
Well, and they also didn't do that. But so why would Americans say at this point, yes, it's worth committing a couple 100,000 troops to that area. It's worth thousands of Americans dying when this is not a country that's evading us. It's not a country that can reach us with its bombs. It's not a country that has nuclear weapons. Why would we want to sacrifice all those men and women for that matter? And especially when we know that our politicians are lying scumbags.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Michael, they're not going to appeal to the American people, and certainly, if I were in the position to have to serve in the military, I would have to ask myself: does the administration have the will to actually do what it takes to defeat the enemy? And they, in fact, don't. So that means that they're putting, American soldiers in harm's way with no clear idea of exactly what they want to accomplish. Or Michael, it could be even worse. Like, Bush was under the illusion that all people have liberty sort of written in their hearts and all people aspire to freedom. And so he assumed that, if we could just free up Iraq, get the strong man out of there, then they're going to elect somebody that is going to be more liberal with them and allow them more freedoms. And the exact opposite happened. They elected, a Shiite sympathizing, Iran sympathizing a government. So clearly, this concept that all people aspire to liberty is simply not true. And you don't want to do what we did in Iraq, which is free up the state in order for them to elect another hostile party.
Can I say something here? I want to respond to Greg Doherty, who I think is great. But this is a problem. When it comes to the environment, right? The environmentalists, if you point out to the environmentalists, look, you people have been wrong about so much in the past. This idea that global warming is so harmful, it's likely not, and it doesn't warrant disrupting our lives and that sort of thing. Their argument would be, oh, but what if? What if it is? The same thing for AI. When you argue about AI, what if AI does turn into this disaster? The risk is so much that we can't allow it. And we rightly contest those arguments, right? We rightly push back on them. We're not going to play the what if game. With the nuclear bomb in Iran, okay, our intelligence said they're not pursuing one. Our intelligence says they hadn't been pursuing one for 20 years. Even if they do manage to get the enriched uranium, that doesn't mean they have the capability to put it on a bomb. Even if they put it on a bomb, it doesn't mean they have the capacity to reach us. And even
Well,
if
because they have to
the
miniaturize that technology after they put it on a bomb, they
Right.
have to miniaturize it to put it on a ballistic missile.
Right. And so then the question becomes their goal, Mark, I think you're going to agree with me. The Islamic goal is caliphate. One world, caliphate. So the question is, even if they had a nuclear weapon, if they launch a nuclear weapon at the United States, there's no world caliphate happening at that point, right? They're gone. They're gone from the face of history. So, I mean,
You'd like to think.
no, I'm very confident of that. You launch a nuclear weapon.
If they launch a nuclear
Yes,
weapon
I do.
in a major American city, that America will have
Yes.
the cojones
Yes.
to launch one back at Tehran. Okay.
Absolutely.
I hope you're right.
But here's the thing. But this is the point. On the chance that Iran is going to have a nuclear weapon in 10 years, because that's what the evidence says it would take if they committed. So we're going to jump through hoops and say that the intelligence wrong. They want the nuclear weapon, which I'm fine with the intelligence being wrong. I don't doubt it. They've been wrong before. I don't trust them anyway. They could be lying for all the hell I know. Okay, so because they might have a nuclear weapon in 10 years, that's going to justify the sacrifice of thousands of American lives now. I don't see the payoff. I just don't. And I've been looking at this thing now for months. It was a subject I knew very little about going in. And I said I was open to the beginning from arguments. I haven't seen any. What I've seen is hyperbole. I've seen hyperbole. I've seen misrepresentations. I have not seen a solid argument that justified going to war with Iran right now, the kind of war that it would take to accomplish the goals that Mark's talking about.
And there's also a regional power, multiple regional powers there that have it in their best interest to not allow Iran to get that nuclear weapon. And the main one, the most powerful one, the one that's actually taken action to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is Israel. I mean, their Mossad was all over those scientists. They were killing their scientists. They were sending viruses into their centrifuges and computer systems and completely fucking up their computer systems. I think the main reason Iran does not have a nuclear weapon now is because of all the interference that was run by Israel, who has a vested interest in preventing them from getting a nuclear weapon because they would be the first freaking target.
I want to address Chandler and then I'll address you. So Chandler says, is a nuclear bomb the only threat from Iran? No, but it was the threat that was mentioned in the chat. It is outside of terrorists coming over here and detonating something in a city or, something along those lines, then no. I mean, that could happen, but they have no missiles that can reach us. I'm talking about the mainland United States. They have no missiles that can reach us. They have no military that's coming over here. In this 47 years of hostilities, which they've wanted to, they've been unable to hit us. There's plenty of bad actors in the world. They're not the only ones, but we don't have the war drum beating to go attack. I don't know who else has Al Qaeda and ISIS. Somalia, I think there's some over there. There's no beating of the drum to go to that. We've made allies with the people who sponsored the Saudis, who sponsored 9/11. The Saudis, we're going to allow them to enrich, evidently, unless Trump now changes his mind. So, again, my question is about, is it worth it to have that amount of Americans die? In this war, Greg is correct here that there are many options for stopping a bomb in war, especially without Congress, is not effective. Yeah, you're right. But now, Mark, you said that the Israelis are the reason that Iran hasn't gotten a bomb. Okay. So are all the intelligence agencies wrong that Iran stopped pursuing a bomb in 2003?
I don't know.
Because that's what you would have.
Because I hear
That's
so
what you'd
much
have to
conflicting.
assume.
I hear so much conflicting information. It's difficult for me to tell what's true and
Okay.
what isn't anymore.
I'm going to
about
tell you, though, there's not that much conflicting information about this.
it. Okay.
Not that much information about this. I believe Israeli intelligence has claimed that Iran was in pursuit of a bomb, but when other intelligence agencies assessed the raw intelligence, not the report, they said no. So now Captain Chandler says, I was under the impression that Iran enabled Al-Qaeda. Okay. Iran did allow some Al-Qaeda personnel to travel through there. That's true. There's no evidence that Iran had any foreknowledge of the 9/11 attacks, that Iran was in the planning in the attacks, or that Iran funded the attacks. That's a fact. There is evidence that some Al-Qaeda trained in Iran, and there is evidence that, like I said, they allowed Al-Qaeda to pass through. But as far as Iran being in any way involved in 9/11, no.
Well, there you have it. So,
and by the way, this is stuff that's easily discoverable. Like, this is not, I didn't unlock the secret code here. I mean, Google, I mean, I don't know, Grok, Google, Claude, ChatGPT, do them all.
yeah. So who knows what this administration is going to do going forward, Michael? The only way they can affect regime change is to hit dual use targets. That's the next stage of things. Trump is avoiding that clearly for whatever his reasons are. Who knows? I mean, logic seems to evade the guy, and we can't guess at his feelings. So who knows, Michael? The results of this will remain to be seen. But if we go back to the negotiating table, we're just going to get the same round of bullshit and more hostilities. So I don't know what the end game here is, man. I really don't. So, Michael, speaking of Trump and oh no, that's not the next one. Sorry about that. Democrat dangers. So, everybody knows that the Democratic Socialists of America won some major victories in the primaries. And that's got sort of got the Republicans a little bit happy because now they have these extremists that they have to go up against, and the prospect of winning elections that they were going to get trounced in looks a little bit better for them. And the Democrats are starting to be a little nervous, Michael. They're starting to pull back the rhetoric a little bit, and they're trying to make these radical socialists seem like they're not really that. Guys like Mamdani are actually going out there in the world when they're being interviewed and pulling back on the socialist angle, which he hammered quite a bit when he was elected, and saying things like, is Social Security socialist? Well, yes, it is actually. But he asked that question in an attempt to disarm the interviewer, since everybody sort of accepts the Social Security safety net as just an aspect of a decent society. And so he often does disarm people with that. But Michael, the Democrats are nervous.
Right, because the Republicans did this before. When the Republicans had a chance to win seats, they went and nominated their wackiest people, and they ended up losing winnable races. So the Democrats are concerned about this, and they should be. So, hold on. Greg Doherty wants to continue arguing. 60%, actually, you should check with Ian Gilmore, because 60% the only purpose is not a bomb. There's other purposes, although they're unlikely, but there's also the possibility that the 60% was meant as a bargaining chip. And it's 100% true that they didn't go beyond, I think, 3.5% until Trump pulled us out of the deal that we had. Okay, but back to the Democrats. Yeah, I think they should be nervous. I think that if they nominate some wackos, there's a real chance that they don't win. But even if they get so I wanted to know this morning about the people running for president, right? What are their positions? So Gavin Newsom, he wants progressive social programs. He wants climate goals. fiscal pragmatism, treating homelessness as an urgent policy. He views healthcare. Newsom views healthcare as a human right.
Michael, might I say that he treated homelessness as a real problem when there were delegations coming to the United States that he had to negotiate with. Then he finally decided to clean them off the streets of San Francisco. Until then, it wasn't anything to be worried too much about.
Yeah, well, healthcare reviews as a human right, free universal school meals, universal transitional kindergarten, preschool, higher school funding, raise minimum wages, sick leave, utility rebates, aggressive push to build more housing faster.
Green New Deal.
Right. And then, so you go to, then that's all liberal, progressive gobbledygook. Then we go to AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, systematic economic and climate transformation, Medicare for all, social justice stuff.
Systematic economic and climate transformation. Michael, what is that but a socialist agenda?
It's socialism. Yeah. A single payer covering all.
Socialism.
Having the government negotiate drug prices.
Socialism.
She's the architect of the Green New Deal, net zero emissions. She views housing. So Newsom views healthcare as a human right. She views housing as a human right. And then you got Kamala. How Kamala is even in consideration, I have no idea.
Number one, Michael. She's number one on their call sheet.
But she's got abortion and reproductive rights, which of course means government pays for it, right? We know that. Codifying a national right to abortion, wants to eliminate the filibuster, which would be a disaster. Middle class focus wants to have an opportunity economy, expand the child tax credit for newborns, higher taxes on high earners. She wants to raise the capital gains tax. She wants to ban price gouging, but so does Trump to an extent. Eliminate taxes on tips. I'm not really opposed to that. Build 3 million new affordable homes, not the government's business. Just get the hell out of the way. $35 insulin cap. So yeah, all of these are socialistic, if not downright socialist.
And that's what blows my mind, Michael, is that the socialists are scratching their head and wondering, how is it that this has happened, this populist movement of socialists taking over the Democrat Party, when all we want was free healthcare, all we want was free education, in other words, they're expressing the socialist platform, right? And wondering how it's possible that people are just going more consistently in that direction. It's like they're not understanding the consequences of their own values, right? You can't say, I can't abide by this insanity with respect to socialism. I just want this aspect of the economy socialized, or this aspect of the economy socialized.
There was a really good article in Reason Magazine. I talked about it yesterday on the members only show. And the article was about policy nihilism. And it talked about how they want to get things passed that have a track record of not being good when they're in law, like rent control was one of the things, tariffs was another, or they advocate things that have no chance of passing. When people do that, I have to, either they're dumb or they're dishonest. Either they just are dumb and believe that these things that have failed before are going to work, or they're just trying to trick people into voting for them so that they can keep power. I can't think of any other options. There may be, but I can't think of them.
And Michael, I think they vote for policies that keep them in the front row of any solutions. And anything that takes them out of the solution, they can't abide by. And that's pretty much everything that is an actual solution, takes the political class out. And it minimizes their effect on the world. And they don't want that, man. I mean, Washington and state legislatures, state governments are populated now with malignant narcissists who create problems, and then like the Munchausen by proxy moms that make their children sick and then take them to the hospital. And they do this over and over again because they want to be seen as the heroes, and they love the attention that the hospital staff gives them. Well, this is what the political class does. They make us sick by imposing these rules on us, and of course, we let them do that. And then they pretend to come to the rescue like knights in shining white armor and accrue all
white armor.
Whatever kind of armor, knights in shining armor, and they accrue all this praise, and it fills up their sense of grandiosity and purpose. Rinse and repeat, Michael. It's really, I hate to say that, it seems to be just this circular psychological drama that the political class is playing out on us, but that's what it feels like.
That's what it is, Mark. That's what it is. And what about the United States credibility? You want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, think about this, guys. Trump negotiated a deal with Canada and Mexico, then promptly withdrew from it. He issued tariffs across a wide range of both perceived enemies and trade allies. So he wasn't targeting the bad guys; he's targeting the good guys as well. These expire, so he uses a section of a law that is intended to restrain the exploitation of slave labor, basically, in order to impose new tariffs, 10% to 12.5% on 60 countries. The vast majority of them, Michael, free countries that abide by that law. He, in essence, accuses them and makes them have to prove their innocence. He doesn't have to. It's the inversion of justice. It's not like they're innocent until proven guilty. They're guilty until proven innocent, at which time he will lower the tariffs a little bit. He's doing this specifically with Pacific Rim countries like Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, who will be our allies in any conflict with China. And he's turning them against us. Now, all of these countries that don't trust that America will actually hold to its trade agreements, because Trump has clearly shown he won't do that, are starting to form alliances with other countries. Now, the alliances are small, the trade agreements are not that significant, but they're still starting to demonstrate that America can't be trusted. Is this good for us? No. How is this? This is going to hurt us down the line. Bastiat's unseen consequences, Michael. Down the line, this is going to have reverberations against America for years to come.
Right. Well, these other countries are just entering to deals with each other because they can't trust us. Like you said, you're accusing people of benefiting off of slave labor. Not to mention that, you know, the other people see the news, they see what goes on over here. They're not buying all of Trump's nonsense the way that his devoted followers buy it. You know, people around the world know it's bullshit. When Trump talks about how 2020 was stolen from him and, you know, how he's persecuted and all that, around the world they know he's full of it. But the people who live in the MAGA silo, they think, yes, oh, yes, it's true. Oh, yeah. So you're alienating enemies. You're accusing enemies of selling us out. I mean, they've made comments.
Friends, not just enemies.
Friends. I'm sorry. Friends of selling us out. I misspoke. You know, they've accused them of they haven't lost a single person in the war on terror and shit like that. Just dumb stuff. Credibility's eroding. A lot of problems. And
yeah, what's
the path forward?
Well, it's going to be difficult to forge a path forward because America's proven that it cannot stick to its agreements with people, and it's attacking friends and foes alike. You can't put friends and enemies in the same category and expect to maintain friends for long. You can't treat friends like enemies and expect to maintain those friends for long. It's stupid, especially given the geopolitical issues that we're having now, Michael, where I think the State Department is very concerned about China's aspirations for Taiwan. And in a case like that, you want strong Pacific alliances with people. And part of the way to ensure those alliances is to maintain free trade with them, free, easy trade with those people. Doing it this way is cutting off your nose to spite your face. And he seems to do that a lot, Michael. It's all about he wants to be the big dog in the kennel, the biggest dog in the kennel. And he thinks the way to do that is to put everybody down beneath him. Everybody, irrespective of who they are. That's a zero-sum game that we cannot win.
Well, you said that was very well said, Mark. I got to give you credit where credit is due. Nice job. I'm sitting here thinking about the Iranians because I know what I say will be misconstrued because that's what happens. But just to be clear, if I could press a button on my computer that would wipe out the IRGC, that would kill the mullahs, that would grant the Iranian people freedom, I would do it right now. I wouldn't even think about it. I'd be fine with it. They're evil people. They're not good. The question is, though, because I don't have that button, is what is it going to cost to do that? And is the cost worth it? How much money, how many American lives, how many innocent Iranians? That should not be our primary concern, but it's not a good thing when, for instance, a girls' school gets blown up. Right? I understand that that's a necessity of war. Innocent people die, but it's not good, right? So how much cost are we willing to endure in order to meet those types of goals? That's the question. It's not just, oh, I want them gone, so therefore they're gone. It's what are you going to do to get it and how much is it going to cost us? That's what concerns me. It also concerns me that a lot of things are just misrepresented. That I don't really care for either.
Yeah, it's really hard to get to the truth in this matter, man, because everybody is lying. Everybody,
not you and me,
not us. But I mean, the people who are charged with giving us the main information.
Oh, they're lying scumbags. Yeah, you told me earlier that Ziggy is Satan. Why? What's going on?
Yeah, Ziggy eats everything, and he attacks and destroys everything. So now he's discovered he can take books that are on the low shelves, take them out of the shelf, and run around with them and chew them up. He takes my shoes. If he finds my shoes anywhere, I could hide them. He finds them, pulls them, and he tears them up. I had a pair of Hokas. He ate the heel of them to such a degree that a little metal piece stuck out. I didn't realize this until I went for a walk. Now he's biting my hip. I went out for a walk, and the metal was digging into my heel. Now I have sores on my heels because of him. And now he's chewing my hand. He's chewing my hand.
Good boy.
And it's not easy. And he's okay.
Listen, Ziggy, after what my dog did to me the other day, I'm not feeling sympathy.
Really? What did he do to you? Ow!
I told you. I told you. First, the dog pooped all over the house. Then the dog ate the poop, and then the dog threw up poop all over me. I will take running whatever you just said into a fence or whatever over that any day of the week.
I don't know why he likes to bite me too. Like he attacks me, and it's not.
He knows that you're bad mouthing him. He knows.
He doesn't do this to his mom. He bites her very easily. But it's like with me, he's like, oh yeah, with dad, I can really let go.
Megan, I don't think 3-year-olds are puppies. Are they? Are 3-year-old dogs puppies?
They're young, but they're adolescent. I mean, they're adolescent when they're like 12 months old. Look at this guy. He looks like an alien.
Are we now using human terms to describe dogs?
But he does look like an alien. Look at that face.
Huh?
Hey, where's your mama? He knows that word. Where's mama? Go get mama. Where's mama? Go get her. Go get mama. Where is she?
It was on, what's the show? The Self-Made Soul show, Akira, is where we discussed it. It didn't actually happen. We're up to 942 subscribers.
Well, fuck. I hope we get there by the 4th.
Yeah, we have 1 week to get 58 more followers on YouTube. Folks, help us get it. Everybody listening right now, and it's the Rational Alternative YouTube channel for those tuning in from X. You all have reach. You've all got social media. Share us on social media. Tell people about us. Help us to reach our goal. We need 58 more followers over the next 8 days to reach 1,000.
That's right. All right. So we got another article to talk about, Michael, which is...
we have no time for that, though.
And we don't?
No way.
All right. Well, then what was the question last week?
We should save those articles and talk about them tomorrow, though. They were pretty good.
Yeah, I love this one. Can we post it? Or can you post
There's
it
only
daily?
one actually. We posted two of them. There's only one that we
The
didn't
permitting
discuss.
problem blocking America's industrial comeback. Yeah, we post
Yeah,
that one so that people can read it. And we'll discuss it tomorrow.
yeah, yes. It would be much better for me with my 2,000 followers to post it than with Mark with his hundreds of thousands. That's how we should do it. Okay. Anyways, what the hell was the question the other day? All right, so Dink Smallwood says magnesium and glycine are great for sleep. That's what I take. Uh, Robin Heron says, I don't buy into the testosterone thing. These days, you don't need to be strong or hot headed to be able to cause damage. Not Another Guitar Channel feels vindicated that I lost track of things happening in Lord of the Rings because it happened to him as well. Well, there you go. All right, now I think we all know whose turn it is today. What the hell? I asked a question. I think about the Lord of the Rings. But either way, Mark, it's your turn to do the talk, and it's your turn to do the question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm gonna take the inspiration from this article that we're going to be talking about tomorrow. The permitting problem blocking America's industrial comeback. I have no doubt that that is the case, folks. When you have when you have to seek permission from bureaucrats, oftentimes multiple bureaucratic agencies that overlap with each other, and anybody along that chain has the power to say no to you. You are disrupting trade, ownership, exchange, all of the things that a free society would not hamper. A capitalist society would leave you alone to do with your properties you see fit. You wouldn't have to go through 1,000 different agencies, all of which you have to buy off, and all of which at any point in this negotiating frame of time could say no. The article said that Michael, that it sent time durations from discovery of, say, minerals in mining to the actual creation of a mine to mine the minerals from 6 years to 30. It takes 30 years for you to actually start a mining business in America. And given the fact that we have rare earth minerals, we have an abundance of them here, but they are out of reach to us because of these regulations, and now strangling supply chains and keeping us beholden to our enemies. That's scary. It wouldn't happen in a capitalist society where you are free to produce as you see fit. So let's try to make this society free again with capitalism, guys. And to help us with that, go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, read our policies, subscribe, become a donor. Also, remember that we're having the American Capitalist Party National Convention September 19th and 20th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jonathan Honig's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Michael's going to be there. Larry Sharp's going to be there. It's going to be a good time. Please come and help us debate our policies and form legislation that we could take out there into the real world and make some real changes. As far as the question goes,
I just shared the article, by the way, Facebook and X.
Okay, good. This dog is killing me.
Oh
literally killing me.
No, not literally killing you. No,
yes.
Not literally.
Yes, literally.
Figuratively, yes, not literally.
So let's talk about Marty Supreme. I want to ask people, did you think Marty Supreme was a good movie, an objectively good movie? Yes or no? All right, and make sure to answer that on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe and share this channel across all social media platforms. We think this word of rational egoism and capitalism, liberty, classical liberalism needs to get out there in the world and become the dominant ethics out there. Buddy, leave your stitches alone. All right, guys, you have 23 hours to check your premises. It's what all smart people do, so remember to do that, please. Peace.